Awesome. The last couple of years, I've been going to these events kind of solo. And then I think for the last year, roughly, Johnny's joined me on a few of these. And I can tell you, this was actually one of my favorite experiences. Being able to go, we had about 45 people that went with us to this event. And we were in Orange County and had a phenomenal time. And so you guys are going to hear a lot of the takeaways, the breakthroughs that came through that experience. And really what I want to do is just kind of have a conversation of just some of the things that people realized. What you'll find is a lot of these events with Tony Robbins specifically has a lot to do with psychology. And the reason behind that is if you actually look at research, they find that of success, 80% of success in any field has to do with your psychology. Only 20% has to do with the mechanics, the strategies. Too often as entrepreneurs, we will cling to or look for different strategies to change our business when in reality, we just need a different mindset or a different perspective that actually allows us to execute more consistently. And so I'm excited to have our panel come up today. We've got Matt Sumption, Sue Ann Hoffman, Cameron Cusick, Natalie Ryrie, and Andrew Webb. Go ahead and give them a hand as they come up. I'll give them their walk-up music, right? There we go. There we go. That's quick. Sweet. I'm excited to have you guys today. I first want to know why you chose to make the investment of time, energy, money to go to this event. You guys obviously paid your own way, but you also, more important than the money, was the time, right? You took out 4 or 5 days of your life to go to this event. I know some of you just went because Johnny and I recommended it, but why did you choose to go? And just overall, what was your initial experience?
I guess I can start. We'll go this way. So I initially went because we had a Tony Robbins training here for the staff and for other people, and Keller Williams here. And Lindsay, the teacher, said that Unleash the Power Within was like really a big turning point for her. And she taught a lot of the concepts were taught at UPW before I even went there, but it did not hit the same when she was teaching them here. Like it was just a completely different experience having been taught them there with Tony Robbins himself.
Yeah.
So that's why I went, is because she said that it like changed her life and everything like that.
Right. Sue Ann?
I have it. I have the microphone here. So for me, it was sort of on my bucket list. I don't know why I didn't go before now, but I read Awaken the Giant Within, I want to say like 25 years ago, like it was a million years ago. And I read it and I read it and I read it, and it changed my life, like for real. I had a lot of beliefs and goals that were conflicting, right? If you go, that'll make sense. And I sort of straightened myself out. And so this was just a bucket list, right? Seriously, these guys know I had the time of my life. I had way too much fun.
Thank you. Okay. I guess I went because anytime there's something awesome, I want to be part of that. And that's not very technical, but it's kind of how I feel. And anyway, I know Tony Robbins is kind of like just the real deal. So I wanted to be a part of hearing from him directly and not just from a podcast or anything. And it was totally worthwhile because basically the energy was like 1,000,000 on a scale of 1 to 100. So just being able to capture some of that and hopefully keep that is just so worthwhile. And that was actually on my bucket list too, but I didn't think I could even write it on my bucket list. It's weird. So I guess that was kind of like already one of my limiting beliefs. So anyway, yay.
And to put a little nail on what Natalie's saying, this is kind of like a Tony Robbins event is not like a seminar where you go and sit down for 5 days and just listen, right? It is like a rock concert mixed with a rave, mixed with like all these different components that really get you into a different energy state. So it is an awesome experience. Tim.
My experience and like the reason I went is kind of like what Andrew was saying. It's just because we had Lindsay come. We did 3 days, full days of her, and she kind of explained like how this is how she went through a whole booklet and everything of just little bits and pieces about what Tony teaches. And I've been to two other Tony, not really events, but he spoke at Family Reunion 2 years ago, and I went to another one of his events in Salt Lake about 3 or 4 years ago. And I just kind of just sat there during watching him and just didn't really do all the jumping up and down, the chants, the clapping, and all that kind of stuff. But like Lindsay really prepared us and made me more excited to come to this. Like, hey, you got to go and have an intention about going. And we'll talk more about this, during this panel. But I was just, getting super excited to go is kind of really, I wanted to be a part of that. We had a lot of people on the Red Sign team go, and I just wanted to be, a part of a big group that all went.
Yeah. Matt, I want to change the question a little bit for you because you've done it virtually how many times?
I've been. I've been to all the online virtual classes that Tony offers. And this was the first one I went into person.
Yeah. We even did we had a small group where we did this virtually maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Matt put it together and we did it at a home in was it Mapleton or where was it? Yeah, so Woodland Hills, and awesome experience, but it's such a different experience in person. But what caused you to want to go in person this time?
Yeah, going in person has always been something that has been on my mind. It made sense to do it virtual and I had a great time. But I'm really glad that I went in person because it was magnified for sure.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a no-brainer for me. It was just, when the opportunity arises, like, heck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to just start with getting some clarity on your biggest aha moment. What was a breakthrough or something where it's maybe an idea or a belief system, something that came through for you where like, that's the golden nugget that I'm taking from this experience?
I'll go. So, you sent the questions before. So something I was really thinking about is Tony teaches a lot about being in a beautiful state or in a peak state. And then what does that feel for each of you? So one of the biggest things that I want to take out of this, like I said earlier, that I really wanted to go all in. So if you know me, I don't jump up and down and dance. I'm not like a huge partier kind of guy. I'm super shy and everything, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna do all the clapping, the chanting, the jumping up and down, the dancing. And it's amazing what that did to me. I was just like the happiest guy there. And what Tony kind of relates that to is just, that's your peak state. And like, who are you? Everyone could be a little bit different, but for me, it was just like all that energy is coming and like, I'm in a peak state. I could do anything right now. And the coal walk was super fun. I didn't think I was going to be able to do that, but he really teaches you how to get in a peak state to accomplish whatever you want to do. And then just mainly another reason why I wanted to go is just to kind of how to change my focus. And he talks about a lot about what you need to be focusing on. So my biggest aha, because focus is kind of hard for me. I get distracted by a lot of different things. If you guys know me, Red Side knows me, I am very jumpy. So if like a sound goes off, I'll jump and I'll scream, I'll freak out just because I can't control that. Just something I can't control. Instagram, social media has always been a big distraction for me. But then when Tony talks about focus, he's like, you need to focus on what you can control versus what you can't. You need to focus on the present and the future. Don't focus on the past. And when you are able to focus on those things, you can be in that peak state. And when you're in peak state and you're able to focus on what you really need, that's where you can really have the energy to accomplish whatever you want.
Love that. Thanks, Cam.
I could probably just piggyback off of Cam because my biggest takeaway was also about the peak state, but he very much talks in like stories. He teaches things through stories, Tony does. And he talked about a story of when like a hurricane came through and like destroyed this town, and all these people were like so upset and they were like crying. Everything had been like just wiped out, and they would just rebuild, and then it's like 3 years later it happens again and it just comes through and wipes everything out. I really related to that because I had a house that got kind of damaged a little bit from a hurricane in Tampa. And anyways, he says like, why do these people stay? Like if it just gets wiped out every 5 years or so, why do they stay? And he said, it's because that is their home. And he parallels that to our emotions. He says, how many people have seen somebody that just gets super, super angry about something? He talked about a training that he did in Hawaii during 9/11. And this one lady was just so angry about 9/11 and how it happened, and she was just so mad. And then there was this other lady that was a nurse and that lives in that area, and she just felt so guilty, and she's like, I should be there right now and I can't be there, and I feel so guilty inside. And after he talked to all these people, he found that, hey, lady, do you get angry often about a lot of different things? And it turns out she did. And he said, well, hey, do you feel guilty about a lot of different things that you have? And it turns out she did. And it's because those emotions that they have is their home. And so they keep going back to their home. And he talked about that through getting into a peak state. He even showed like a little like move that you can do. You can do like a physical move to snap you out of like a bad limiting belief that you fall into. Mine was the Muhammad Ali, chest bump right there. So if I ever find myself getting into like a weird state, or he calls it a beautiful state or a peak state, I can go, Muhammad Ali hit my chest and snap back into my peak state. And so that was the biggest takeaway that I took, is that this triangle of changing your physiology, your focus, and then your language and the words that you say to yourself will change you back into that peak state.
Yeah.
And you can have a little movement to get back into it too. So
That was a great analogy. We all have these like kind of emotional homes that we tend to go back to. And so we just need to be aware when different things pop up, like how are we reacting to that emotionally, and can we change what our focus is? Like people can have the same exact experience happen, right? They can get cut off in traffic, and one person can say, flip that person off and say, why'd you cut me off? The other person could think in their mind, like they might be having an emergency, or they might be having a bad day, or they might be whatever. I'm going to forgive it. It's no problem. It's not that big of a deal, right? And so we can make that decision depending on our focus, which completely changes the energy that we have in those moments, right? Matt?
I've been chewing on this because I've been through this before, and so as I was kind of synthesizing all of it, I'm sure we discussed it, but in my own words, it kind of came out as, so I'm working towards accomplishing some goals. There's some income goals, there's some health goals, there's all this stuff that I'm working on, and I've reached some of those goals, and it's been interesting because I've reached those goals, and then it's just kind of felt a little like numb, like, oh, that's it. Like I thought there was going to be like, balloons popping and fireworks, and like, I'm just going to be like a different person. And it's been eye-opening for me to accomplish some of these goals and then have that feeling, because going to UPW, there was several times that we talked about being in peak state, being in a beautiful state. And for me, what that means is living in the present. Maybe we'll talk about priming here in a little bit, but preparing ourselves each day to be the best that we can be and living in the moment. And that's been so meaningful to me, because it really makes me wonder if I'm the best person that I can be each day, then what I'm doing is actually, let me back up. I think financial freedom is a common goal. I think we all want to give back to our community. That's a common goal. We probably relate to some of these same bigger goals all in some way. If I'm not a better person to be able to help my kids overcome, or my grandkids or my family members overcome some of their challenges, I'm going to feel like maybe I could have done better. Right. And so being my best today and challenging myself today, that's kind of my why. That kind of helps me not only accomplish my goals now, but down the road when I hit financial freedom and my kid or my grandkid or someone comes to me and says, I'm having a problem with this, I want to be able to have the answer and like give them the nugget that actually helped, because I lived it. I became a better person each and every day. So
Yeah.
That was one of my ahas.
Yeah. But I heard this quote recently that's saying that when specifically for kids, that lessons are caught, not taught. Essentially, that what they see is what they end up emulating, right? And so just like, how can we just be in that consistent routine of just trying to be our best and showing through example, it's the best way that we can live for other people. Natalie?
I liked the idea that he shared with us. Basically, think of the awesome thing that you want to accomplish and put yourself in that moment, and it's kind of easy to do that if you think back to something you've accomplished in the past. Think of how you felt. Think of the amazingness of the moment that you touched the thing of your goal, or like you made it there, or you made it to the top of the mountain, or whatever your goal was. But you put yourself there, you feel that, you talk with the people you were talking to, but you're in that moment. So feel that emotion. And I think all of you can do that like right now. Think of a time that you had an amazing, amazing feeling, and just let your heart swell with that kind of joy and give yourself that gift. Well, guess what? You are not actually there. So do that for yourself in the forward and be like, hey, after I make that awesome, amazing, huge goal, here I am, and this is how it's going to feel. Because he says, you know what? Why wait until that day to feel so good? That's just a crappy thing you could do for yourself if you wait. So do it now. Make yourself feel amazing by living in that feeling of what you've had in the past. Give yourself a gift. And we had some experiences where we tried that, and it was totally exciting, totally amazing. But he said, use all your senses to remember it. So anyway, we'll stop there, I guess.
Natalie, one thing that comes to mind is we really learned at UPW that our mind it's like a computer. It's basically all it is a computer. And so we are in charge of that computer. And when you truly believe and understand that it's that simple, you can start making change, not like how sometimes you want to push it off, but it's just like now I'm different. You don't have to wait for anything. Everything you need is already in you. And if you want to feel a certain way, it's just knowing how to rewire or seeing what needs to be connected. And so it's really empowering.
Yeah. That insight is so impactful. Where how many of you have a laptop or computer today? Few of you, all of you, right? How many of you still have the old Windows computer from 1993 that you're using today? Okay. And the reality is, though, oftentimes what's happening is our minds are still that old operating system. It's like the belief systems or the patterns that we've adopted through the past, and we've never actually gone through the process of updating those computers, so to speak. And so we have to look at ways to upgrade our mindset, our perspective, our emotions, and saying like, hey, this is the new path that I want to set myself on. But it's that you have to force that update. It doesn't just happen overnight like technology now does today, right? So if you were to I want to go to one of the highlights, at least I think for me, it was one of the highlights. And one of the scary points for a lot of people is the fire walk. So for those who have not been, Tony has, I think there's roughly, I don't know, how many people were there?
Oh,
He said 11,000.
11,000 people. And he basically has everybody walk on fire. Okay. And leading up to that experience, right? You're like, well, you have all these beliefs coming into your head of like, what if I like burn my toes off, right? Like, how am I going to still sell real estate and go do all these showings, right? All these things pop into your mind. But I'm curious to just hear what your experience was in that, and even maybe the after effect, right? As soon as you finish accomplishing walking on fire, like what is your initial thoughts or feelings after that experience?
So that was one of my favorite thing by far. So before he did the coal walk and everything, he did maybe an hour or 2 hours of training and how to do it, what to do when you're walking, how to think, getting to that peak state and when you are doing it. So it was a lot of, chanting, everyone was clapping their hands saying, yes, 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 yes. And then he had a bunch of music playing and he would just review it over and over and over again. And I was like, all right, let's go. I want to go do this before, I get too psyched out. And he also goes into talking about the pain level and burning yourself. Getting burns is one of the worst pains you could ever feel. And he kind of said, hey, when you burn your finger on the stove, it's like a 60 something on the pains. I don't know, what is it? Do you remember it was some type of scale of burning yourself. So for me, I have a unique experience that there was one time where I burned my entire body or my arms and my face with second and third degree burns back in like 10, 15-ish years ago. And I know how that feels. I'm kind of getting psyched out because I already burnt myself before. If you look closely, I have scars all over my arms. I used to have some over my face. And so I know how painful it can be getting burned. But then getting into that peak state and having, you know, even chanting the yes, 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 and walking, we had to leave the stadium we were at. He's like, take your shoes off now, walk in your bare feet in this disgusting stadium, going out on the street, walk down the street, walk through the parking lot, and then you see there's 30 strips of coals that you walk across. And as you're walking across, you're supposed to be chanting, he said, cool moss, cool moss, cool moss. And that's what you're saying. This kind of gives your brain and your mentality to be able to walk through those coals. And as I walked through that, I'm like, it was so simple. I didn't really feel anything until like a couple hours later, like me, Clay, Johnny, a couple other people were at Denny's. It was like now at 1 a.m. And we started feeling it in our feet a little bit. Like, hey, we're feeling a little bit of it. I don't know about you guys, but we felt like a little tingle in our feet. Clay takes his shoes off in the middle of the restaurant, and he's like, "Oh, I got a blister on my foot." And so this kind of tells me like, hey, it's because we're no longer in that peak state anymore. We can start maybe feeling it because we're eating at Denny's at 1 in the a.m. So
Yeah. I will say nobody was extremely harmed. Everybody has their feet still
yes,
from the experience. So, but the psychology behind that as well, I know it sounds a little odd, but the saying yes and chanting yes is because our mind is saying, no, I do not want to do that. So you're reprogramming your mind to say, yes, we're going to do this. I'm going to do it. There's no negotiations with ourselves, right? And then also reprogramming the cool moss, thinking of yourself walking on cool moss that's not hot, right? So you're actually, again, just reprogramming what the brain is thinking, and it changes the whole physiology of the experience, right? Rather than you saying, oh my gosh, my feet are burning, you're like, oh, this is not that bad. It's a walk in the park, right? So
and then you also, I don't want to take too much time, but you also said like, hey, don't film yourself, because everyone wants to film themselves. Like if you're filming yourself, one, you could get distracted, trip and fall, but you're not really in that right mindset of you're wanting to say, everyone, I'm walking on coals and everything. You're not really focused on chanting the yeses and the cool mosses and everything.
yeah. Anybody else want to share on the firewalk?
Oh, no. Okay. My experience was I was checking in with myself over and over, wondering if I'm going to crap out on myself. I'm like, am I going to actually do this? Oh my gosh, clear till I got there. So I'm not the best example because, but I guess really deciding up front is so important because I really was like, I don't know. After I did it though, I realized, that the thinking about it, the anxiety about it, the whole mental gymnastics about it is way worse than the just doing of it. And I think that is very applicable to like pretty much 100% of life. Whatever seems like it could be difficult, it maybe isn't as difficult as we're creating it out to be. So that was very worthwhile experience for me.
So we often suffer more in the mind than we do in reality.
Very much so.
Right.
Well,
Anyone else?
One of my takeaways from the firewalk was, so right before you walk on the coals, and we went through this 100 times, right? He's like, okay, you're gonna walk up, and then you're gonna get into peak state. You're going to, do your move, make your move, say yes, and that's important because there's actually something physiologically that happens to your feet that protects your feet from the fire. And it was interesting because I did it wrong a little bit. Obviously, I still have my feet, but they got burned probably more than I thought they should have. And as I recall my experience, I walked up and they said, go. And I was like, okay, let's go. And I didn't like prime myself. And Tony had a story of like someone challenged them. They thought, oh, what you're doing is nonsense. And so they did like a metal plate, and it was burning hot on top of the coals. And so anyways, that was eye-opening to me. I was like, hey, that priming, that getting into peak state was really important. I'm excited to do it next time because I think my feet might not get as burned as much.
Changing gears a little bit, what when we think about goals, how many of you have already kind of had a general idea of what you want to accomplish in 2026? Okay. One of the things that we don't learn about, I think, successfully is that it's not the goal that truly matters, it's the supporting habits. It's saying, well, whatever target, if I'm wanting to grow my income, if I want to be better at relationships, if I want to be better at my health, we have to then chunk it down to what's the supporting habit? What habit will actually get me on track with that? And so I'm curious if any of you had a adjustment. What daily habit or ritual did you add or remove because of UPW?
I have one.
Yeah, Sue Ann.
So I naturally wake up from the beginning of time at 7 o'clock. I think my parents must have done that to me. But I really want to get up at 5, right? So I'm not I don't bounce out of bed at 5 o'clock. So it's been a lifelong challenge. So after the UPW, I actually, which I've never done before, even with all the mind stuff I've done with Tony's stuff before. I actually start my morning the night before. So I tell myself when I am sleeping, I am going to pop out of bed and I'm going to have so much energy, right? And so I fix the state the night before, if that makes sense. And I've been doing that well since UPW, and it's working, right? So I'm like popping out of bed and I'm like bouncing off the walls, and that's not really me. So so that one has, everything, different things work for different people, but that one shift has worked really well for me.
Wow, love that.
Did you do the sit down and like breathe a couple times to like
Yeah.
wake yourself up?
Yeah, in the mornings, Tony teaches you how to prime, like that
Yeah,
makes sense.
priming, that's
Priming.
what it's called. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so priming's super great. And then between just those two things, like it's not like I'm a listless human. I have quite a bit of energy. But between those two things, like I'm like bouncing off the walls.
I just want to highlight that for a second.
Yeah.
Because too often when we think we want to make some radical changes in our life, we think that there's going to be like, we have to change so many things. When in reality, if we just change the right thing, there's like these keystone habits where it's a domino effect for everything else, right? And what you're hitting on is so important because when you win the day or the morning, it starts the night before, right? But that's a domino effect for everything else, right? It sets the tone, the energy for the rest of the day, and it shows, it has an impact on how you show up in business, for your family. So it's just think through not all the things you have to change. It's like, what's the one change that would have a ripple effect on everything else, right? Love that. Who else?
Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but priming. So something that like before UPW, I had like a set morning schedule. I loved waking up, around 4:45, 5 a.m., going to the gym, doing my going to the cold plunge, sauna, coming home, breakfast, then getting to the office and everything. I found myself like super exhausted, like around 1, 2 o'clock. I just didn't have any energy. And then when Tony teaches priming, if you haven't seen it, it's a lot of like raising your arms up and down, breathing in and out, showing gratitude, and grabbing and bringing in blessings to your heart and everything. And I knew he did that before, because I've had a bunch of friends who attended his events before, and I see them doing it. I'm like, that's so strange, and I would never do that. But like I said before, like I really wanted to go all out on this event. I'm going to participate in everything. And so I took that priming because he's like, hey, I do priming every morning. All of his like executive, what do they call them? Like the
Trainers, executive trainers.
like all those trainers, all of his coaches do the priming. And there's that quote like, hey, you are like the 6 people that are around you. What is that quote? Like it's
The average.
you're the average of the 6 people that you surround yourself with. And so like all these people in there, I was noticing all the people like right up front, like the super VIP people, they're all doing this priming thing. They do it every morning. I'm like, all right, if I want to be successful like them, I'm going to copy what they're doing. And so ever since UPW, when I wake up at 5 a.m., I go right into my priming. He has a YouTube video of it. You just kind of just copy what he does. And I didn't have
that video.
It's 15 minutes. There's some that are a little bit shorter, but the one that I've been watching every single morning is 15 minutes long. And it's just like I mentioned, breathing, thinking about your goals, thinking about your loved ones, thinking about what you're grateful for. And that has completely changed my energy. Like I don't need to feel like I need to go home and take a nap kind of thing. And I just want to, be around successful people all day long. And I think that is the biggest thing that's helped me in the past, 2 or 3 weeks since we've been home.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay. he says, okay, if you want to change the way your mind is working right now, change the way your body is working. So he says, if you'll notice, well, I'll just show you. How about that? So he's like, if somebody walked up and goes, hi, how you doing? What? Are they excited, or do you see a lot of meaning or a lot of good things coming from this person? Who knows? Maybe, probably not. Okay. But if you're standing confidently, and he even talks about find your sternum and raise your sternum up. And I think of it as, what's the red guy that,
Iron Man.
what?
Iron Man?
Yes, boom. The Iron Man medallion in the front of his chest, if you point it up to the top of the corner of the room. But anyway, basically, if you imagine that in your chest, but you're standing openly and your body is changing so that that your position doesn't preclude your energy. So let your body have the best opportunity to have the best energy possible by putting your body in a state that would give you that. So,
Yeah.
and I find that totally true.
Yeah. I mean, even this highly translates into sales, the industry that we're in. Does anybody know how much of persuasion and influence has to do with language, the actual words that you use? There's a specific percentage. 7%.
Wow.
7% of influence is the words that you use. Yes. The majority of it, though, are other components, things like tonality, right? So how you say things matter, but then also it's your physiology. So that's why like in person, face-to-face interactions have a way better conversion rate than like on the phone, because they can't see your posture, they can't see your eye contact, all those other dynamics. But even this is just a practice of like that. The reason why that influence has such a big difference is it's your energy. You're transferring your energy to that person, and you're basically transferring your confidence into them, and they're getting confidence back of you. Does that make sense? So it's just such an important thing where it's like, it's not just about feeling good. It's actually about how do you actually influence better and help serve more people, right? Anyone else on this one? Okay, so let's walk through changes in your business. So obviously a lot of times we go through, and a lot of it is about changing the state, but we also end up saying, well, I'm going to change certain parts of my business, right? So either processes for my clients, or I'm going to integrate something different by how I show up in my business. So what are the tweaks that you've made in your business since coming back from UPW? Savannah?
So one of the things, so Tony's like, I mean, he's been doing this for like 35 years, right? And his voice is even starting to fail him, right? Because he screams for 4 days in a row. I don't know how he's processing that. Clearly it's a pretty big issue, but he kept saying, you've spent your time, you've spent your money getting here. I am going to show you the best time, and I want your experience to be so over the top, because I recognize that you have spent your time and your money. He's like, money, that's one thing, but your time, you can't get that back. How many times did he say that? Over and over. So when I came back and I was thinking, oh, business, oh, goals, right? Because I love that. I kept thinking, well, wait, I mean, am I really approaching my clients that way? Right? They have given their trust, their time, their, agency over to us, and money, because they pay us well. And I was thinking, I mean, am I really approaching my clients the same way he approached us? So that's a mindset that I'm really like thinking, I want to make their experience equal to what they feel like they're giving me, which is a lot. So that's one shift.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. There's if you do not have your ticket yet, please get it for for Family Reunion in Atlanta, Georgia in February. They just released the lineup for the CEO Summit, which you can sign up for as an additional event. But one of the authors is, I can't remember his name, but his book is called Unreasonable Hospitality. And he talks about how do you actually over deliver, which in our industry causes repeat and referral business, right? And I think Tony's a great example of that. He brought in a line of people who they don't put on the agenda, but he brings in some pretty cool people. I think Andrew, one of your favorite singers, was there.
Yeah.
Aloe Black.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Funk.
just all these people that he brings in where you're not expecting it, but it's because he has this consistent goal to over deliver on what your expectations are, right? And how can we implement that same strategy into our own business? So great takeaway, Sue-Ann.
Are you looking for like a tactical? Okay, because I have like a limiting belief that I'll talk to you guys about. I'll just share it, even though whatever. Okay, so I actually had this limiting belief, and we were working through our limiting beliefs. We write down things that have been bothering us, or what is it that we are trying to work through, or we notice. And so I was talking to Taylor Frampton, and he is my little buddy right there. And I said, hey, this is what I noticed is my limiting belief, and I need to fix it. And he goes, okay. So I said, anytime I hear some things that I don't understand in the news or on a podcast about business, then somehow it makes me feel stupider. And I don't think I'm really that capable of being able to help somebody invest in a property. And I don't know if you guys ever had any feelings like that before. Just look in my eyes and tell me if you have, so that I know that I'm not talking to a room full of mannequins here. Basically, so he looked at me and he immediately goes, what are you talking about? He goes, you're telling me that you trying to gather more information and understand better and improve yourself and improve your business knowledge is somehow not translating into helping other people better. And he just looked at me and laid it out like that. And I said, okay, I can see right now that it was totally a wrong belief. And I just, something that I'm so thankful that I recognized that I could switch that out of my mind.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, those limiting beliefs also, they cause us to interact with clients in a certain way,
Yes.
right? So it's big. Any others? Matt?
I would say the thing that came to my mind, there's a lot of changes and a lot of things I want to add to my business, and it can get overwhelming at times of like, holy cow, like I have so much I need to do. I have help that needs to be onboarded and found, and we talked about just improving 1% a day. Like it's actually common for us to overestimate what we're going to try and accomplish in 1 year's time, but we'll frequently underestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years. And so with that perspective, it's like, well, what if I just had a goal of improving 1% each day, not make it, this big old elephant that I got to eat. And that's been really helpful for me. I'm lighter on myself. I tend to be pretty like, nitpicky about, oh, you didn't do this and this and this, and you need to get better at all these things. But 1% sends me home feeling better, a little more self-love.
Yeah. I just want to point out a common theme because these individuals are top performers, and it doesn't matter what we accomplish externally, we still will have limiting beliefs. We'll have these kind of thought processes that kind of loop within our mind, and we just have to be aware of those things, right? Matt, you've more than doubled your business. You've done over 100%, 120% increase on your business year over year. And again, the challenge is that sometimes no matter what you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but no matter what we achieve externally, we can still have these beliefs in our mind that kind of just cause damage, right? So it's always assessing those, being aware of those, and saying, what new belief do I want to install or replace with that previous limiting belief? I want to get, just with the sake of time, we have a few minutes left. If you could just share a quote or principle that came out during UPW where you're like, that stuck with me or that hit me. If you have any quotes written down in your book, feel free to share those. So anything that Tony said that was, or Joseph or Scott, any of the other speakers that was really impactful for you.
Should I start?
Sure.
Okay. I'll just pick this one I saw, and it kind of goes off of, I think, what I think it was Cam that said this, but proximity is power. Getting yourself around people that have the same kind of vision as you, putting either cutting people off or putting boundaries for people that kind of drag you down. So get around successful people, around the kind of people that you want to be, that are ahead of you. So I think that was a big quote. Proximity is power.
Great.
Day one was just like a fire hose. Like Tony comes out and it is just like, oh man, he's bringing the freaking heat. Like he's just dropping bombs left and right. And he talks about, like, one of the first things he talks about is, what does success look like? And what do successful people have in common? And what can you not teach somebody who wants to go be successful? And he says hunger. Hunger is that trait that either you have it or you don't. And my guess is if you chose real estate as a profession, you probably have some hunger in you. So that was eye-opening to me, of like, oh man, I'm a freaking dog, you know? And like I know I can accomplish anything because I have, like, that was self what do you want to call it, adding. Like I just felt like I had more capability because I have that hunger. And I guess he didn't say it just has to come within, right? If you don't have hunger, you can teach yourself to have more hunger, but knowing that hunger is really where it stems from kind of can give you more confidence or give you something to work on of, hey, like I'll be able to accomplish anything because I will just keep going. When I fall down, I'm just going to get back up because that hunger is going to be that drive that keeps me going.
One of the things that I liked that he talked about a lot is fear, and just got to get rid of fear. And his quote was something along the lines of, like, fear dies with gratitude. This is something like that. You guys remember, right? So like, not with just a business, like business, you have fear of making calls, fears of, going to appointments and everything. Relationships. So like when we had Lindsay came, and we probably like felt like 3 hours we're talking about my dating life, and it was super, like, it was kind of fearful for me to be talking my dating life with a bunch of strangers and friends. But it was all for the better, because like you got to, like, face your fears, go after them. You had the fear of walking on coals or whatever it may be. He just really teaches you how to overcome all your fears. And that's like one of my biggest takeaways is now I could go out and make my calls when I need to make my calls and do the things that I don't want to do.
Tony said the world is addicted to problems. And when people talk about triggers and, oh, that triggers me, and oh my gosh, it's a trigger, all this stuff that he says, we're letting other people control us if we have those kind of attitudes. And he says, he made us say this out loud. I trigger myself when blank, we feel in a negative emotion happens. And so we get a chance to realize, hey, if I'm upset about something, I choose to be. So that was very powerful for me because I love the idea that motion brings emotion and energy flows, focus flows where our energy flows. So it's just, we really are in charge of ourselves, basically. And so let's prime ourselves to be the best possible that we can be.
So for me, somewhere in there, like I say, it was like drinking from a fire hose. He said something to the effect that influence is a skill worth mastering. And we're all in sales, right? So, and it's not like Instagram influencers, that's not what I'm talking about. But with enough skill, and we're going into a negotiation or to get a listing or to help a buyer sort out, their finances. The ability to influence people, even if it's for them to gain confidence that you actually know what you're talking about, that's a skill worth mastering.
Love it.
Did you say that? Did everybody
Yeah.
talk?
Everybody did. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the conversation today? Anything else you're dying to share?
Everyone should go to the next one. It's in November of next year, right?
Yep.
100% go. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah,
Where's it at?
Miami, this next one.
I have a thought too, because even when I read Awaken the Giant, I've probably given 15 or 20 of those books out over the years. But he's still working on a lot of those concepts that came out of that book, right? From bazillion years ago. So in prep, right? Because it's so much information. One, go. And two, you can start internalizing some of these concepts. And a ton of those are in Awaken the Giant Within. What was the next one he wrote?
Unleash the power.
Unleash the Power. Yeah, which is where I think this seminar was sort of, it really encapsulates those two books.
I could give just one final thought. And one thing that he talks about is interrupting patterns. So he talks about, we live these lives, and he gave examples of when he helped somebody with this fear of snakes, right? A psychologist got on the radio station with him and just like cursed him out and was saying, "You're the worst person ever." He was trying to get people on the radio to come to his event that he was going to do at the hotel, just in a little room that maybe holds 200 people or so, and that's typically what he would get. And this guy called him out over the radio and said, "You're a terrible person. You're a con artist. You're, and he's like, "Well, you're a psychologist. Have you been working with somebody for a long time?" And she said, "Yeah, I've been working for this one lady for 7 years or something, and she's still afraid of snakes. She has these terrible nightmares about them." And he says, "Bring her to this event and I will cure her in 5 minutes in front of everybody." And so 500 people showed up instead of 200 that day because they all wanted to see what would happen. And he was able to break the pattern. Essentially, and he did this with all of us, he would have us get into this state where we were closing our eyes and envisioning our lives and saying, picture yourself 5 years from now, still dealing with this issue. Imagine how much pain you're going to go through for this entire time of 5 years. If 5 years down the line, you're still dealing with this issue that you have. And then he says, feel that pain. And now it's time to take massive action. Massive action. So that was a huge takeaway from me.
I would have to say, coming home from an event like that, you have friends and family that heard that you went, and so naturally they ask you, "Oh, how did the Tony Robbins event go?" And in my mind, I'm always thinking like, all right, first of all, how long do we have, and do you really want to know, or do you just want like surface level?
Yeah.
Because it's like it's so much, it's just so impactful, and so I'm trying to explain to people on whatever level we feel like we can get on, but it's an investment. Like I feel like if it's the goal that I need to put together on a yearly basis of, hey, I'm going to invest this much into myself to become a better person. I'm not going to walk away from an event like this and be like, all right, now let me see, how can I recoup that 5 or 10,000 that I don't know if it's that much, but just like dollar for dollar, like I better get that money back out. It's going back to, am I becoming a better person? And by becoming a better person, it will yield an ROI that will amaze all of us. When we become the best version of ourselves, there's an unlimited, infinite ROI.
To piggyback off that just real quick, Matt, to put this in perspective, this is not something that he taught, but it's something that I think we all experienced. This was 4 straight days, about 12 hours, sometimes 12 hours plus, especially the first day of training. It's like, how could we go over that in an hour, right? But in 4 straight days, 12 plus hours every single day, oftentimes with like almost no breaks or little food, none of us got tired. None of us were. Did you guys experience that? Were any of you guys tired at all?
You weren't
Yeah,
tired at
some of
midnight
it.
at 12:30 in the
Like,
morning?
well, I mean, not, but like compared to what we should have been,
Yeah.
we should have been absolutely exhausted, like not paying attention, not getting anything out of it. But like from my experience, like everybody was getting into that peak state, getting into that peak state every single time. And maybe like every time there was like a little bit of a lull and you could kind of start to feel yourself go down, they would bring out the dancers and we would get back into the peak state and then we could learn again. And so anyways, that's my, just to add on to that.
Last two thoughts.
Yeah,
Natalie?
like last kind of going off of that, that's like he does, I don't know how many of those kind of events throughout the year, but he plans those exactly. He knows exactly when people are going to kind of falling asleep or getting tired. But like once his little DJ guy turns on his dancing music, everyone gets up just because, yeah, I never got tired, but there's people around who might be getting bored or whatever it may be. But then once you get back into that, he's like at peak state, dancing, jumping up and down. He had some choreographer, dancer people telling us what dance moves to do and everything. And then he goes right back into material. And so that's just, getting people back engaged and focused again.
Okay, I guess I want to not so much preach Tony exactly right now. I want to say for all of us, I want us all to write down a few memories that are very impactful in your life and be able to have those real close at hand so that when it may be a hard day or even at the beginning of every day, I really like the idea to start your day priming with these good thoughts. But put a memory in your heart that is so valuable to you that it helps you to change for the positive. Have those memories available and keep that memory bank, keep adding to it so that you can improve yourself with your own life. We don't have to look so far outside of ourselves to do this because we all have pretty awesome lives.
All right. We got one final thought and then we'll wrap it up.
One final thought. Okay. He was teaching this class one time and it was a really nice, like one of his, I think it was Date with Destiny, most expensive ticket that you can get. So these people are coming for a big change, right? And he realizes that a train is now passing by every couple hours. Think like a really nice resort, 200 people, maybe it was smaller than that. And this train is now going by. And for me, I love this story because I get irritated really quick. Like I can get really bugged. And as he's telling the story, I'm just like, oh man, what would I do? Like you're hosting this event. People are like annoyed that this train is going by. Honk, honk. Maybe it's like even rumbling the building, paid a lot of money to be there. And he flipped the script and he said, do you know what? Every time that train goes by, we're going to get out of our chair and we're going to scream and yell and party like somebody just won the World Series or, national championship. And that was just like it just clicked. Like we choose our experience, right? So if something's bugging us, if something keeps coming into our life and be like, man, that is just getting under my skin. It's literally a choice and we can flip the script and we can just get up and dance and yell for no freaking reason other than we want to be happy and see the world a different way. I love that.
Love it. Love it. Give them a hand. We'll keep it short. We've got lunch here. We are going to put a group together for next year. If you want to attend, just shoot me a text or Johnny, and we'll get that set up. The reality is that we can make slight tweaks that have a massive impact on the results that we get throughout the year. We'd love to see you guys at the retreat on Friday. That's where we're going to go through the 7 areas of life. Cam's got it all dialed in, so you should see a message from him. If you don't, check your email and don't see it, just let us know. But enjoy lunch, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Thank you, Shoni. That was great.